This is Toledo Symphony Lab, a behind-the-scenes look at the world of classical music from WGTE Public Media and your Toledo Symphony. I'm Brad Cresswell, and joining me today by phone is the Toledo Symphony's music director, Alain Trudel. And right here in the studio, I have the TSO's principal second violin and artistic administrator, Merwin Sue. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good to be here.
I have a fanfare that I created for us to get started. This fanfare thing seems to be a normal thing, so I have a fanfare for you guys. Are you ready?
Can't wait.
Okay, here we go. Okay. What do you think of that?
Well, I think it pays tribute to Alain and my shared Irish heritage.
Yes, indeed.
It's wonderful.
We didn't do the St. Patrick's Day special this year because it just didn't work out, with the timing. So that's our little nod to St. Patrick's Day and to your shared heritage, right? Do they celebrate St. Patrick's Day in Canada, Alain?
Well, we do. I mean, I have absolutely no Irish blood in my lineage whatsoever, but yes, we do. I used to do the parade every year when I used to play in the brass band. So lots of things happening and things thrown at us.
Well, we are here today to talk about the upcoming concert from the Toledo Symphony. It's happening on Sunday at the Toledo Museum of Art Peristyle at 7 o'clock p.m. This is Igor Stravinsky's A Soldier's Tale, which is kind of a rarely heard work, but a really wonderful and interesting piece of drama. I should mention that you can read more about this and learn how to get your tickets for the concert if you want to go. That is at toledosymphony.com, or the box office phone number is 419-246-8000. So let's talk about Stravinsky and The Soldier's Tale. You want to tell us a little bit of what this piece is, what it's about, and this production that you guys are doing?
Soldier's Tale is, what I find is very interesting is that it was exactly two, let's say, 5 years difference, 100 years ago. And it's a tale that can happen anytime in the past, in the present, and the future. It's the story of Faust, really, the story of good, evil, greed. It sounds like something you turn on your TV and you can watch, but with mixed metric times. But this is a piece I personally love. I've done many times in the past, and I really wanted to do a special presentation of it for a concert, and I want to involve the community in this. So it's kind of a long-term project. This is the first leg of a long-term project that I have, including the TSLAB, but also a rewriting of it that will come in the future also. So it's the beginning of something for us, but it's also quite a standard piece now that, although it's not played as much as other pieces, it's a piece that is very important in the history.
And it's really interesting music. We should mention this is for 7 players, right, as well as actors.
Yep. What's really interesting is that if you're thinking Stravinsky is in, is in Switzerland, he's in the First World War. It was premiered in 1918. So basically, it was what was left out there, what musicians were available, so there was nothing really being organized.
Yeah.
The country there was war everywhere in Europe, and he wrote this as kind of it feels like a Saltimbanque a little bit, a little touring group, and there's only 7 instruments, as you said. So basically, it represents a little bit of all the sections. So there's the violin, which actually represents the soldier and the soul of the soldier. There's a bass, so violin and a bass, then a clarinet and a bassoon, then a trumpet and a trombone, and all of this is linked together by a big percussion set, which it's very pictorial, the music, and that is very attractive. At the same time, it's one of those pieces that you listen to it and it's you say, oh, this is great, and it's one of the hardest things to play. So it's really challenging. At the same time, especially if you bring yourself back to that time. There was a pandemic, and then there was a war. Oh, wait a second. Okay. And then they were in the 20s.
Well, I was about to say that it puts this piece in a slightly different light when you put it in context of the First World War around when it was written. Yeah. But you're making a very valid point that, hey, this piece is almost in a cyclic way kind of returning to those themes that are so relevant and so important today. This happens a lot in classical music, don't you think?
True, but in history, it's like you think 1812 to 1820, 1914, 15 to 1920, something, 2000, let's say, let's pick a year, 16, until now. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen during every 100 of years, and it's very bizarre. And this piece is actually, it's like almost like a time machine, but at the same time, they're all things that are very actual, because the story behind it is the story of a soldier has 3 days off, permission. He goes, he says, I'm going to go see my family. And then he meets this bizarre person who tells him, hey, listen, I want to make this deal with you. If you, and you'll recognize, it's a little bit like, it's very Faustian story. Says, well, I have this book and I'd like to trade it for your violin. The soldier he has this violin in his duffel bag. And the violin, of course, represents the soul of the soldier. And we've all guessed already that the stranger who comes represents the devil, or everything that is bad. I mean, a devil can be like almost caricatural, but it's not that. It's things that are bad for us in life. And finally, the guy said, well, I don't know. I mean, I like my violin. What's in your book? I can't even read. And he said, well, no, I'll teach you. He said, I only have 3 days. No problem. I'll take you. I have a fast ride. We'll get there. I'll feed you the best food, and you'll feel like super comfortable. You can imagine soldiers sleeping on a bunk bed for all that time. He has a little bit of time. And they said that you'll be rich for the rest of your life. You don't have to worry about anything. And he's thinking, oh, well, maybe I'll do it, So he goes, and finally, after 3 days, he winds up understanding he didn't stay there for 3 days, stayed there for 3 years. He was completely cheated by the devil. And now he understands who that stranger was. But the book actually tells him everything about the future. So, it's like if you come and you have a book that tells you the future, like on Wall Street, or a book that tells you the future in Vegas and betting, you can say, oh my God, in 50 years, Tom Brady's going to win the Super Bowl. Well, he probably will, but you know what I mean. But it's
now that he's not retired anymore. Yeah.
Well, no, was he ever? But I think he went home and the family said, oh, we can't stand it. Just go back to work.
Maybe so.
But I just want to be useful. I'll stop it. But this finally goes back to his village. He sees that nobody recognizes him. And that's when he finds out it's been 3 years. So yes, now he has means, but he lost his life. He lost his girlfriend, because after 3 years, everybody thinks he's dead in the war. His mother, he has an attack when she sees him, like, whoa, and he lost all his friends and his friends. And sorry, I'm a conductor. I put friend as singular. But he after that he says, well, how am I gonna? So the whole thing, how he's going to win back his soul. How he's gonna get the violin back. What is he going to do? The healing, the healing power of music, the healing power of the violin. Because at some point, there's a princess that's sick. He gets his violin back, and then he's able to heal the princess. There's a healing process in that. And he heals her, he heals himself. Finally, they're together. Finally, he finds happiness again. But as, when there's human things. So he says, well, I have the girl, I have the violin, but I sure had everything with the other thing too. Maybe I could have both. Maybe I could have everything. As Faust, he turns around, and if he gets greedy, tries to get everything, that's when the devil picks everybody up and wins the game at the end. So that's the story of it.
Very nice. Yeah, you've just done your rehearsal for the pre-concert talk, it sounds like.
No, it's okay. I've done it many, many times. I'm very passionate about that whole thing because there's a little bit of the side of we're going to make do with what means we have. Like we have like 7 instruments. We're going to put a show together. Like when I was young, that's one of the first pieces I've done because, you know, you don't have so many colleagues that you can put to, you know, you can ask to make a show come together. I also staged it many times, which I'm not staging this time, but I also worked on it a lot, and it followed me all my life, and it's a piece it means it's more than just music. It's one of those rare pieces of music that is so much more than just music. But the music by itself is as strong as anything in the repertoire, but it's so much more than that. So that's very impressive.
Yeah, it's really interesting to listen to, and it has been, of course, performed and recorded, just the music side of it, but there's also, as you say, the dramatic side to it. I think it's fascinating that you guys are performing this on the same stage where Stravinsky himself performed at the Peristyle. And Merwin, maybe you can talk about this project that you did with Michael Boyd, I believe, where you guys brought this, you sort of recreated this Stravinsky concert.
It was pretty amazing. The programming director at the Toledo Museum of Art, Scott Boberg at the time, he found these records that said that Igor Stravinsky had appeared as a composer-pianist, I think in 1935, almost right after the opening of the Peristyle. And it's just, I think one thing that Alain has mentioned about Stravinsky is kind of, there's just an incredible practicality about the composer. I don't think a lot of composers are necessarily the most practical people, but Stravinsky was always extraordinarily practical and extremely adaptive, and he would be able to adapt his compositions and his music to whatever was available. And during the Great Depression, very little was available, so he created all of these ballet suites for himself and a violinist friend of his, Samuel Dushkin, and he toured the United States at a time when you could not perform Firebird because there was simply no way to marshal up the forces that were necessary. Yeah. He was able to do these divertimenti and these capriccios that were based on his ballet scores, but were only for a violin and a piano. And so they're very challenging pieces. And Stravinsky was somebody I had not spent as much time with as a violinist. And so it was a real odyssey for me to kind of explore all of these great pieces and to perform them with Michael. It's still a highlight for me. And to play on the Peristyle stage with a piano that we are pretty sure was the same piano that Stravinsky used as well. So I think there's some mathematical odds where there's like, it's a 2 out of 3 chance that this is actually the piano that Stravinsky played in. So we'll say that's good enough.
just say it. We don't need, too much information.
But it's amazing. And I think that, getting the chance to do a recital all of a single composer's music and to be able to kind of, trace all of these different elements and to recreate something that Stravinsky did himself was very meaningful for me.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Such an interesting little tidbit, connecting to Toledo to one of the great composers of the 20th century. And for anybody who was not knowing that existed, now the rest of the story as it is. I do have a little quiz that I made up here for you guys, and this is a showdown of sorts because Alain always complains about Merwin winning the quiz even when you're not there. And
I'm not complaining. I'm impressed.
Yeah, okay. Well, I sit corrected then. You are impressed. Often impressed with Merwin winning. I would be impressed too, especially with him not here winning the quiz. So
I know, that's incredible.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you talk about Stravinsky's bigger works, and of course, a lot of people are familiar with The Rite of Spring. If they're not so much familiar with the music, they certainly know the story of when it premiered in Paris back in 1913. There was a riot in the streets. I mean, something that just couldn't happen today, at least in the United States, with classical music. So I don't view it as like, a controversial event. I view it as like a cheerleading event for classical music. I wish we would have that same kind of, riots in the streets today over new music. But all of that aside, I'm talking about the Rite of Spring because I have a Rite of Igor quiz. This is a quote quiz. It's not a quote quiz about the Rite of Spring, but a quote quiz from 3 different actors in the Rite of Spring. When I say actors, I mean people who facilitated the ballet. Okay. That would be Igor Stravinsky, Václav Nijinsky, or Serge Diaghilev, right? So you decide if it's Stravinsky, Nijinsky, or Diaghilev who said the following quotations,
so
right? So
we've got the composer, the dancer, and the impresario.
Yes, okay. Indeed. No violinists, sorry, Merwin.
There's violin in Rite of Spring. Who knew?
But let me pull up some music, speaking of which. There we go. I was waiting for that part. Now, this is a knockoff of the Rite of Spring. Say again, Alain?
It's a minor third too high.
Only you would know that.
He's just playing it faster.
My ears went like bing, bing, bing.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, that's it, definitely. All right, here we go.
Sorry about that.
I'm going to say the quotes. I'm going to go through all the quotes first. And you have paper and pencil there, Alain?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So I'll go through all the quotations. You write down who you think it was, Stravinsky, Nijinsky, or Diaghilev, and then we'll go back. Okay, first quote is this. People like eccentrics, therefore they will leave me alone, saying that I am a mad clown. Second quotation, one lives by memory and not by truth. Number 3, I am not crying, but have tears in my heart. Number 4, the more art is controlled, limited, worked over, the more it is free. Silence will save me from being wrong and foolish, but it will also deprive me of the possibility of being right. That's really an interesting quote when you think about it. Next one is this. I seek truth in a book and not the subject. I haven't understood a bar of music in my life, but I have felt it. And the last one for this round, the trick is to compose what one wants to compose and to get it commissioned afterwards. That's another piece of good advice, right? Alain, you're a composer. You ever done that? You ever written a piece and then searched out a commission for it?
You just have to stay very quiet about what you're writing,
Yeah. And then you can use it for anything, basically.
I guess so, but I don't write enough to.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to the beginning and I'll give you the answers, okay? Number 1, people like eccentrics, therefore they will leave me alone, saying that I am a mad clown. That was Nijinsky. Anybody get that?
Yay.
Yep.
You both got it?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so far you guys are tied. All right. Second one. One lives by...
Stop there.
What's that?
We can stop here.
You want to stop right here? No such luck. Still have a few to go. One lives by memory and not by truth. That was Stravinsky.
Nice.
Everybody get that?
I got that one.
Nope.
Oh, Merwin is in the lead. Okay, I am not crying but have tears in my heart. That was Nijinsky. Anybody get that?
Got it. Yep.
You both got it. Okay. So far, Merwin ahead by 1. The more art is controlled, limited, worked over, the more it is free. That was Stravinsky. Merwin got it. How about you, Alain? We're working on the honor system here, by the way.
Oh, got it.
Okay, so you both got it? Well, I only trust Alain because he admitted to not getting the one by Stravinsky, so...
I got a cheat sheet right here.
Okay. Silence will save me from being wrong, but it will also deprive me of the possibility of being right. That was Igor Stravinsky.
Oh.
Oh.
Yes, I got it.
I did
Oh,
not.
you guys are tied again.
I
Okay.
did not.
Oh,
I seek truth in a book.
Again.
You're tied. You want to stop right here? No, we still have 3 more to go.
Well, let's do it.
I seek truth in a book and not the subject. That was Nijinsky.
Ooh.
Oh,
Oh, you both got it. I mean, you both
Got
didn't get
wrong.
it.
Both got that wrong.
I didn't get that.
Yeah, nice. You're still tied. I haven't understood a bar of music in my life, but I have felt it. That was Stravinsky.
Whoops.
Oh, no.
Wow.
I like the first half better. Can we stick with the first half?
We only have one more question here. The trick is to compose what one wants to compose and to get it commissioned afterwards. That's not an Alain Trudel quote. That was by, you guessed it, Igor Stravinsky.
I second guessed myself out of that. I was like,
Are you serious?
I did. I second guessed myself.
Wow.
Good job.
Elaine, you won by 1. That's amazing.
I'd like to thank the Academy.
Thanks to the Academy.
I think right here is a spoiled ballot.
All right. Well, Merwin, you'll...
Best day of my life after the birth of my children and my marriage. And, I'd like to thank my agent. And
Hey, don't forget me. I made the quiz.
I'd like to thank Brad for giving me the answers before the show. Sorry.
Yeah. You'll get your chance, Merwin. I have another edition of this quiz coming up a little bit later. We have...
I gotta go.
Elaine, okay, we'll talk to you next week. Anyway, let's talk about the other piece on the program, which is a sort of a response to A Soldier's Tale. It's called Hommage à l'Histoire. How's my French, Elaine?
It's perfect. No
Perfect.
joke.
Oh, okay. I'll take that.
Hommage à l'Histoire, absolument.
Okay. So this is by David Baker. And I know you both have experience with this. Alain, you were involved with the premiere of this piece, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Merwin, you performed David Baker before, and you're familiar with him as a composer.
Absolutely.
Which one of you wants to sort of weigh in with your personal experience?
Why don't we start with the premiere of the piece?
Okay.
Kind of like, we'll start with more specificity, and then we'll roam further afield later.
Then we'll get a little more far afield, as you say. So, Alain, take it away.
Well, I was part of a really good group led by James Campbell, clarinet player, clarinet soloist extraordinaire, who also is a clarinet teacher at a school in Indiana, the university there, like really fantastic artist. And it was the whole thing started at the Festival of the Sound up in Canada, where he's music director of that festival. We played that and he put a group together to do l'histoire with, unfortunately, deceased fantastic puppeteer, but who built, it's very interesting. The puppets were basically, they would hold like a head that's even bigger than like a person's head. So, but then they would cover themselves with different kind of clothes, and they would make those. It's very, very dark puppetry, and we did a production of Soldier's Tale with them, and with different people doing the soldier and doing the devil, etc. And it was quite popular, and we, everybody in the group wanted to do it. We had Joe Corrington played bass. It's like Guy Hsu on trumpet. It was kind of an all-star group, so it was a lot of fun. And we got some offers to play it somewhere else. So James and his agent, Laurel, they put on a tour. So we wind up playing, 20 days of this across the U.S. and Canada. And what was a lot of fun is that's just a little fun fact, is that when we change places, like let's say, for example, I remember that one because that's very vivid in my souvenirs, that when we played in the Prince Edward Island, that's one of the provinces in Canada, like every place we would go, we get somebody like a local politician who likes theater to play the devil. That was very funny.
It's kind of like Mother Ginger and Nutcracker.
Yeah, but I mean, we have a pretty good sense of humor about politics, especially in Canada. It's like, okay, let's get the politicians to play the devil. And usually everybody appreciated a lot. And they said, oh, this is funny. You're making fun of yourself a little bit. That's good. And when we went in, it was in New Brunswick, not Prince Edward Island. In New Brunswick, they had a big problem with the fisheries at that moment. And we were staying at different places. And I was staying, I think Guy and I, the trumpet player, and I, were staying at the ministry's, like the minister's house, not minister, but the ministry's, the person representing that at their house. And they had a big protest when we had to do that. And it was supposed to do the devil in the show. So people were screaming and we were throwing fists at his house during the day.
Wow.
So it's a very funny memory. It has nothing to do with the Baker piece.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe last. Okay. And,
who had New Brunswick fisheries in the bingo card for this episode?
Exactly.
Well, we've done that sort of thing before, so that's okay.
So, it wasn't a walleye. It was something else. But anyway, we had, James thought he had a great idea of having a companion piece, a tribute to l'histoire, because Hommage is tribute, a tribute to l'histoire composed by one of his colleagues in Indiana, David Baker. So he actually wrote this piece for us. I remember because David Baker likes the trombone a lot, so that's why. And I kept complaining I don't play enough, and he's supposed to put a bunch of things for me in it. And what it was super nice. And what he did is basically take the skeleton, of the different parts of the suite from l'histoire. We played the whole thing, of course, but for him, it's basically the marches and dances. Because there's a lot of dances. That's how he cures the princess and l'histoire, with the different dances. Now, at the end of the 1910s, getting to the 1920s, the turn of the century, there's a big fascination with European with American music, because they didn't really understand it, but they were like, oh, this is, what is a ragtime? What is this? So if you take the three dances from l'histoire du soldat, you have a tango, you have a waltz, and you have a ragtime. And that's interesting. So what David did is he wrote a waltz, a Lindy Hop, and a samba as that. And the only movement that's kind of a slower thing is a song, and it comes off in like a song by the stream, all that, and so So he wrote the little song, and then little parade, march, and then at the end, like Grand Marche. And all of those have little winks from different components of l'histoire du soldat. So when we play both of them side by side, because that's how we're going to do the concert, we're going to do the suite version as a suite, and I'm not meaning that it's sweet, because nothing is sweet about l'histoire du soldat. But we're going to play it as a suite. Then we're going to play the David Baker suite. So that's one part of our concert, and take a little moment, and then run l'histoire du soldat as a play. So that's, and I think it's so interesting to have both of them next to each other, because it's really a tribute. You can see how David Baker really, loved Stravinsky, loved this piece in particular, and wanted to pay tribute, and also wanted to pay tribute to the different dance forms that are, there's not a lot of music for classical musicians that are Lindy Hops,
Yeah.
so it's really interesting. And the samba is actually the most difficult thing on the program, because a samba is just basically a feel, right? And for classical musicians, we read music of a chart, then we see, a dotted, let's say a dotted quarter, eight rest. But if you just sing it, but we're not trained like that. I started with jazz, but usually classical musicians are trained to, translate the idea, the concept of the composer that put it on a page, that wrote, that created the music, and then you translate that. But often music like Latin music or samba, they're written because somebody decided to write them down, but they were just played because people play more by ear and play by, to have a groove. And so it goes from being played as an improv, as a groove being translated on a page, and you're trying to find the same kind of groove, but having clues on the page instead of having all the answers on the page. So it's very, very different than just a classical thing, and it's tricky for the players.
Now, you're conducting this concert, right?
Yes, I'm conducting this concert, and I've half the time I've done l'histoire de soldat, I've conducted, the other half I've played. But the thing is that if we play, we need like weeks of practice. If I'm playing, if you do without a conductor, because it's so intricate, the meter changes and everything.
Right.
Of course, live being live and our season moving along, and us playing a show just a few days before, and then getting into Bartok, Brahms right after. I mean, it's better for everybody, and also dealing with the young actors that we have. It's better if I'm conducting.
So we're talking about this concert that's happening Sunday at the Toledo Museum of Art Peristyle. It's at 7:00 p.m. A Soldier's Tale of Igor Stravinsky, preceded by David Baker's Hommage to History of... Here I am trying to translate from French. Hommage à l'histoire. It's probably better just to say it that way. How would you say that in English, Alain?
Tribute to l'histoire. Tribute to l'histoire.
Okay. Tribute to l'histoire. I'll say it in my best English accent. Again, that's happening at 7:00 p.m. on Sunday night. More information at ToledoSymphony.com or through the box office. That is at 419-246-8000. Merwin, you promised to talk a little bit more about David Baker. Alain touched on the fact that he was based in Indiana and Bloomington for many years at the Jacobs School of Music there. What's been your experience with him and his music?
I've had a couple of experiences. He was a legend, and just an amazingly talented musician, who was able to kind of switch careers midstream from being a trombonist, and then unfortunately he got in a car accident and had an injury to his jaw and was forced to switch careers to the cello and became an amazing jazz cellist, a great composer, a wonderful educator, and somebody who was just so adept at bridging the gaps between classical music and jazz. And I remember the most recent experience I had with David Baker was performing his sonata for tuba and string quartet with Dave Saltzman, as well as with Thea Prokes and Bob Clemens and Dave Ford. And we played it here in Toledo, but then also got the chance to return to Bloomington, which is actually my alma mater, and to perform that piece for David. And it was just a wonderful experience, incredibly memorable. He was just so gracious and so kind, and it was such a thrill to perform that piece for him. And a couple of years before that, I'd had the chance to record his ethnic variations on the theme of Paganini. And that's such an interesting piece because in a way it's structured very similarly to this particular piece. You've got something that is rooted very much in the classical tradition, but then he runs it through different filters. And so, whereas there aren't a lot, as Alain mentioned, there's not a lot of Lindy hops in classical music. There's also not a lot of calypso. And there's a gorgeous calypso variation, which I loved. And it, frankly, the piece kicked my butt. It's not my proudest moment. It was just
it's a great recording, though. You did that with Phoenix Park Kim,
yes,
pianist. Yeah,
but it's such a difficult piece. But David just, I mean, he takes the spirit of the Paganini 24th Caprice and then just runs it through all of these different American and Latin American dance forms. And so, seeing this piece, pop up in my music stand, this Hommage à l'histoire, there's a lot of nostalgia there for me because it just reminds me of these great experiences I had with David Baker's music.
And, a few things stand out to me in what you said. First of all, going back to, the trombone and changing to the cello, mm-hmm. I mean, those two instruments seem like they're so far afield from each other, mm-hmm. yet he excelled so much at both of those.
Absolutely.
We should mention that he passed on several years ago. Mm-hmm. but also just his style, his pedigree as a jazz musician and as a composer who was heavily influenced by jazz and by other styles, which he uses to such effect in this piece we're going to hear on Sunday. You think of him, you think of Stravinsky as being influenced a little bit by jazz and moving in that direction. And then David Baker is sort of like the full-blown expression of that link between jazz and other styles and traditional classical music. It's just a wonderful pairing, I think, of those two composers.
I'm sure it's exactly why James Campbell thought of David Baker to write this homage, because they're both in Indiana University faculty members, and I'm sure that he thought, well, this is the perfect person to pay tribute to a piece that's both timeless but also inspired very much by jazz.
We're starting to run out of time, but I want to get in a little tiebreaker quiz here.
There's no tie. Alain took it on the final question. It was a shootout victory.
And what I'll do here for a tiebreaker, or for a lane breaker, whatever you want to call it, since I did promise Merwin would have a chance to win after all, I'm just going to whittle this down to 3 different questions, and they're each by a different person. One of them is by Stravinsky, one of them is by Nijinsky, and the other is by Diaghilev. Okay, so you get to choose which is which. Let me pull up some different music for this. This is kind of like the love child of Stravinsky and Danny Elfman in this music, right? Okay. First quote is this: "Of all the wonders that the world had to offer, only art promised immortality." Next quote is this: "There is no beauty in music itself. The beauty is within the listener." And finally, applause is not opinion. Applause is a feeling of love for the artist. Okay, you've matched the speaker to the quote. The first one, "Of all the wonders that the world had to offer, only art promised immortality," that was Diaghilev. Everybody get Diaghilev?
Yeah.
Okay. So far, Alain is still in the lead. "There is no beauty in music itself. The beauty is within the listener." That was Stravinsky.
Yeah.
You both got it. Okay. Well, then, if you both got those two, you definitely got the last one. "Applause is not opinion. Applause is a feeling of love for the artist." That was, of course, Nijinsky.
David Baker. That was David Baker.
That was David Baker.
Yeah, David Baker.
Yeah, right. No, that was Nijinsky. You both got it, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let me tally up where we are here, and this is actually... Alain is the winner still. I tried. I did the best that I could. Congratulations, Alain.
No need to play the sad trombone this time.
And, I just I work very hard all the time.
Yeah, we heard it all before, so.
You needed to go with the sports one. You gave it 110%, blood, sweat, and tears.
I go in the corner to get the puck.
Exactly.
Yeah, I knew that we would talk about hockey one way or the other. that this would come down to that. Well, it's been an interesting discussion, gentlemen, and this is a wonderful concert, a really interesting concept, and a fabulous pairing of David Baker and Igor Stravinsky. This is happening on Sunday at the Toledo Museum of Art Peristyle. It's at 7:00 p.m. It's a chamber concert. You can find more information at ToledoSymphony.com or the box office number at 419-246-8000. This program is a production of WGTE Public Media in collaboration with our sponsor, the Toledo Symphony, with generous support from the Rita Barber Kern Foundation. You can download episodes of this program as a podcast by going to our website at wgte.org/lab. You can also subscribe to us through your podcast app of choice, including Apple and Google Podcasts. Don't forget to check out all the upcoming events at the Symphony by visiting their website at toledosymphony.com and their various social media outlets on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can find the TSO streaming platform online. That's at stream.artstoledo.com. My thanks to Alain Trudel and Merwin Sue. I'm Brad Cresswell, and you've been listening to Toledo Symphony Lab from FM 91.